Y'all read, how are the lads and lasses, how we doing? Today I'm talking about being the best version of yourself, and is that really a good thing or a bad thing? And I'm talking about the Looking Glass Project. Wow, let's get into it. I'll tell you all about it on the other side. So in one of my general chats with the Emissaries, I was just saying, oh, wow, everything's so confusing. I know we've talked about this before. It's like mad, isn't it? So confusing. And they said to me, Gordon. They don't actually use my name very often. No, I don't think they said Gordon. They said, listen, you don't need to spend any time trying to decipher what's going on. They said, all of that is not for you. And it's not for the group of awakened people. It's not of your business to be spending time worried about that. So I was suitably admonished by the emissaries, like you're saying, stop looking at that. Look somewhere else. And they did, because they always give a solution. They don't just tell you off and leave it like that. They give you a solution. And they said, where everybody needs to be focused now is on this. And they give me 3 options. They said our time should be spent in meditation, contemplation, going into stillness, and getting in touch with the inner divine you. That's what they said. It was very poetic. And I said to them, well, hang on a minute, because I've heard, I often say, well, our job is to be the best version of ourselves, be the best version you can. And they even said, well, that's what we did when we all came. We merged the timelines and we chose the very best version of ourselves. And I said, but some people say that that's a bit bad. And it's bad because that means you're in lack. That if you're not the best version of yourself, then you must be a shitty version of yourself. And therefore, you've got to work for the rest of your life to be the best version. That means you're in lack. And I said, what do you make of that? And they said, well, the truth of the matter is this. When you get in touch with your own divinity, when you get in touch and connected with your divinity, you automatically are the best version of yourself that you can be. And they said that's the real worth of finding and connecting with your divinity. And I suppose the real worth of doing that inner journey back to God, because that's connecting with your divinity, is the journey back to God. Yeah, that connection. And automatically we become the very best version of ourselves. Does that mean that we just stop and we don't need to be any better? No, I don't think so. Consider, for example, the Nintendo game. When I was a youngster, I had a Nintendo game, and about the whole screen was 1 pixel. It's very difficult to know what was going on, and it was just not good. But my assumption is, and I could be wrong, but my assumption is that the Nintendo was the best version of the Nintendo that they had at the time. But since then, good God, look at the PlayStation now. It's very close to reality. And so they've come a long way. So the best version of video games keeps getting better. It just happens to be the best version at that point. And so the same with us. When we find that when we are being the best version, it doesn't mean that we have to stop working on ourselves. It doesn't mean that we don't stop striving forward, because we've always got constant improvement. It doesn't mean that, that's the interesting thing about constant improvement. It's like saying, what I've got now is the best that I've ever had. And I know that there's more to come. I know that there's better to come. But I'm very happy with what we've got. I don't feel like a failure. No, I'm a success. And I'm going to go on to be even more successful. I think that's really the idea of always working to be the best version. Yes, there were times when we were shitty. The version was dreadful. But now that we're at a place where, hey, I'm okay. If I didn't change, I'd be okay. But I know I'm going to get better. I know I'm going to get better. And I know you're going to get better. And so that's what it's about. Just getting in touch with your divinity. So remember the words: meditation, contemplation, going into stillness, and getting in touch with your own divinity. That's how you do it, and that's how we're going to do it. And now, moving on to the Looking Glass Project. I heard about the Looking Glass Project, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe. 20 years ago when the whistleblowers were coming out, and I heard all about it, and it was so exciting and so wonderful, and the idea that they got up to 2012 and there was just this barrier and they couldn't see beyond it, and they couldn't change the future. It was like set. And the idea being that there were multiple timelines, and they could change stuff and jump timelines and what, and then it stopped. And then there was one fucking option, and they couldn't change it. And that was all very nice. And then I forgot about it, and I've mentioned it a few times across the years doing these videos, but it, there it was. And then I'm watching Candace Owens, and she does this deep dive on the Looking Glass Project and the Mandela Effect. She said something like, you shouldn't have taken the cornucopia off us, on the fruit of the loom, how they used to be. We used to print them in my factory. We used to print T-shirts with fruit of the loom because it was fashionable then, and it had the big flowers and then the cornucopia. Yeah? I know it did. And then it disappeared, and it never existed. And all of that. I mean, I've been looking at the Mandela Effect for years, fascinated. I don't look at it now because it seems as though all the changes that happened are now, we've seen them all. It's like no more changes. Why? Because we've been on this timeline for a while now. And so the changes that we've seen, that's it. But why am I talking about it? Well, because Candace Owens was talking about the Mandela Effect and the Looking Glass Project. These are deep woo-woo subjects. These are the conspiracy corner subjects that we were laughed at. I remember mentioning the Mandela Effect to my Spanish students. I was so like, "Wow, it's incredible!" And the faces of like, "You're a bit weird, aren't you?" And there was that lady who has millions of followers. And I was looking, every video that she does is about 1.2, 1.5 million, depending on the subject, And you think, well, that's not a lot. But it is. And the reason it's a lot is because everybody and, all and sundry jump on the bandwagon, jump on Candace Owens' podcasts, videocasts, and they talk about it. They've got nothing better to talk about. They can't invent their own stuff, so they talk about what she said. And that's fair enough, but it gets very boring. Please, have you not got any material of your own? But anyway, imagine, she says that to, let's say, 1.5 million people, but then all of the other people who've got channels talk about it as well. And so the message is being disseminated at a rate that we've never ever seen before. If I had known back when I woke up 20 years ago and I was looking and feeling really embarrassed about even mentioning stuff like that, if I'd known that it was going to become what I would call mainstream. I know maybe Candace Owens isn't mainstream, like she's not a TV channel, but bloody hell, in the alternative world, she is probably the biggest voice that we've got. And she's talking about it. And so all of these people are going to be starting to look into it. What the hell's a Mandela Effect? I'll just have a look. What? The Monopoly man didn't have it. Yes, he did have one of those. He did have a monocle. What? They've taken the monocle off. How did that happen? What? The Queen song, Champions of the World, doesn't end with "We are the champions of the world." It doesn't. They've taken that off. How dare they? And that's going to create a furore, I think. A furore. And people are going to start looking into these things that would never look at into them normally. Another part, I suppose, of the Great Awakening, another part of the, hey, take a look at that. It's like getting slapped around the face with a wet kipper. That's what is happening. And it's just, I remember when we were in the very early stages of the pandemic, and the Emissaries were yapping on about the Great Awakening, like, over and over again, the Great Awakening. And I was saying, the Great Awakening is upon us. It's here. People are waking up. People are waking up. And yeah, on the inside, I was thinking, I would like a few proofs just to show that. And now, it's like, God bless you, isn't it? You know, the things that we were talking about, it's like, God bless you. It's, you know, the COVID. I used to have to spell that out so I wouldn't lose the channel. All of that, it's coming out like standard stuff. Yeah, it causes the big C. This. I think sometimes we don't give credit to the change that's happened in this world. We are seriously in the Great Awakening now. Seriously, it's like way beyond my ken from 20 years ago. I just couldn't imagine this being the case. And sometimes we take it for granted. And plus, because we want it over, we become frustrated. It's not going fast enough. It's not big enough. You know, there aren't enough people awake. Yes, there are. Remember, not everybody's going to wake up. Not everybody wants to wake up. So we just need to wake up the people who've got that written in the plan. And boy, that's a good job that's happening at the moment. And hats off to people like Candace Owens. For whatever you might think about it, boy, she is giving a message and she's making people move away from the status quo, move away from this society, the rotten, stinking, horrible society that's been built, that's been shown as normal. And she's saying that it's not normal. Wow. Wonderful. And I think that's only going to get more and bigger and more crazy. Remember, we know a lot, but lots of people don't. You know, they've got to wake up to all of this. And for me, for example, the Mandela Effect was like it was the popcorn of the Great Awakening. Oh, what? I can't believe that. What? Suddenly the Scarecrow is in The Wizard of Oz. He's got a gun. When did that happen? I can't remember that when I was a kid. And things like that. It was just enjoyable stuff. But I think it's going to get a lot heavier than that. You know, I think that might just be the starter. And then there'll be a main course, and then there'll be a pudding. And then a coffee. And then the end. And I'm longing for it. So there you are. Hey, talking about Mandela Effect. If you've looked into the Mandela Effect, what was the one that really hit home for you? The one that you said, hang on a minute, that isn't right. For me, there were two. One was, Luke, I am your father, which then morphed into, no, I am your father. And that's not what he said. And even the actor said, he said, Luke, I am your father. And my mama used to always say, life is like a box of chocolates. And that morphed into, my mama always used to say, life was like a box of chocolates. No, he didn't. T-shirts have been printed. Life is like a box of chocolates. Everybody says it. So they were the two that caught me on the hop. What about you? What have you found that stood out to you in the Mandela Effect? And if you haven't got anything, have a look and see. And then tell me what it is that you found that you say, impossible that it was that. I love you all and I'll speak to you all later. Bye-bye.